Halo Pak Lars.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Pak.
If I can change to my... Okay. Can you still hear me now?
Yes, Pak. That's clear.
Okay. Good, good, good. Okay, so if I share my screen, it works.
Yes, Pak. Okay, it works, Pak.
Yeah. Okay. So I send you also the file as a PowerPoint just as a backup, just in case something goes wrong. Yeah?
Oh yeah, okay, Pak.
Okay. All right. So you guys will record it, but the recording will be sent to whom?
Actually, with limited people, like as you like to the director or like to director general, or to Pak Hendra.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's important. Just not to make it sort of public, right? And sort of on the.
Yes, Pak.
Okay. All right. Then we'll see you shortly. Hmm?
Yes, Pak. Thank you, Pak Lars.
Thank
so
you.
You will be the first speaker, right, Pak? Is it okay for you, Pak?
That's fine for me. That's fine for me.
Yes, yes, Pak. So, I already asked Pak Hendra. So
yeah.
Okay. About it.
All right. So I'll stay in here right now, but I'll put my mute myself. Huh?
Yes, okay. Pak. Thank you, Pak.
Halo.
Halo Pak.
Halo, selamat siang.
Selamat
Pak
siang Pak.
Widianto.
Sehat Pak?
Puji Tuhan, sehat ya. Ini nanti sore mau ini buat acara dengan Pak Tony Wenas nih, nyanyi-nyanyi.
Hi,
Waduh.
Hendra, how are you?
Hey,
Halo Pak Lars.
Dr. Lars, how are you?
Very well, very well. I'm in Jakarta. I'm just stuck until Sunday. Yeah.
Until when, Dr. Lars?
Until Sunday. Until Sunday. Until Sunday. I'm in quarantine, and then next week I'm still here. Yeah.
Oh, next week you're still here, yeah?
Yeah. Actually, I'm doing an event on Tuesday morning, like on the future of energy and everything. I'm doing with at Bumi in person and also Zoom on Tuesday.
Tuesday morning, Pak. What time, Pak?
10 o'clock.
So can we join that event?
Yes. Yeah, we'll send you.
Yeah, please send us the link.
Yes.
This is a kind of for public at all?
Yeah, I mean, we will make it open to the public, but of course pre-registered, right? So it will be hosted by Bumi, but of course privately, and there'll be a few people in the office in person, and then we will have a Zoom as well, as we discussed, Adianto. So Pa Dilip is organizing with his team.
That's right. If we can also share it to our blast it to our email.
Yes.
Yeah, I would like to join Dr. Lars on the event.
Please.
Tuesday morning, yeah?
Yeah, very good. Tuesday 10 to 12, I think. Yeah.
10 to
please
12.
do. But Andra, otherwise you okay, Andra? Everything okay?
Yeah, we're doing okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, we haven't set the date on. I told you about the possibility to invite you for as a webinar, but yeah, we haven't set the schedule yet. So after this, you're going back to Singapore or Switzerland?
No, I'll be going back to Europe, but next week I'm still here in Jakarta.
Okay, so still possible, yeah? Next week after Tuesday, if okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll let you know soon. Yeah, I'll talk to my colleagues. Yeah.
Please do.
Okay.
Please do.
I heard from Pak Ben that you were in Jakarta, so that's why. I met him last week.
Yes. I also try to see him. Yeah.
I see.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I was planning to come earlier, but the quarantine is difficult, and now I'm stuck here this whole week. It wasn't planned this way, but it is what it is. So, yeah.
Oh, I see. Wow.
Yeah.
It's very unfortunate that now the case is increased, is higher in Indonesia now. So it's critical time.
Yeah, it's becoming interesting. Yeah. Guys, I'm gonna just come up for a couple minutes, then I'll join a little later. Yeah, I'll see you soon. Okay.
Yes, Pak.
Oke, jadi Pak Adianto, ordernya nanti Pak Dr. Lars dulu ya.
Ya Pak.
Dr. Lars, kemudian ini ya yang itu Pak Jimmy ya.
Sesuai apanya aja sesuai
ya. Ya. Sesuai aja ya, nanti tinggal terakhir berarti Pak
Dr. Lars, Pak Jimmy, baru Mr. JP. Baru nanti di
Miko ya.
Pak Miko baru panel.
Oke.
Panel Pak ada Arius Dimara, Patricia,
Pak Yusman ya, sama Bu Patricia ya. Oke, Dr. Lars, waktunya mungkin 20-25 menit ya paling ya. Pak, ya.
Halo Pak Gi, Pak JP, how are you Pak?
Halo.
Halo Pak. Oh.
Still mute. Okay.
Tapi di sini nggak mute ya. Please check the sound Pak. Something problem with the sound maybe.
Oh Pak, can you?
Yes Pak. So you are now in Hong Kong Pak?
Yes, Pak. I'm in Hong Kong.
Oh, I see. Hey, Pak JP, how are you?
Okay. Very good to see you, Pak Hendra. It's been a while.
Oh, nice to see you again. Thank you.
Yeah. And how's the virus situation in Indonesia?
Oh,
yeah, it's now
getting worse now.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's the highest case in 5 months. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Compared to January, since January, this is the highest one. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Hi, Guy, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Good to see you.
Dr.
Yeah.
Lars, how's the Euro 2020 going? 2021.
I don't know. It's not looking so good, I think. Huh?
Oh, especially the Germany and Switzerland.
Exactly. They're not doing so
Very
well.
important game tomorrow, yeah, Dr. Lars.
Yes,
Germany,
yes.
Portugal.
Yes.
Austria, not so good. Austria, not so good.
Yeah.
Oh,
They're
yeah,
all
Austria,
not. They're all not doing the way they should be. Yeah?
yeah, I follow all of the games. Yeah, so
That's good.
Denmark, Belgium last night was very exciting game. Yeah. So.
I didn't see that.
Oh wow! It was very exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, who else on the line? Okay, hold on.
Selamat datang Pak Jusnan sama Bu Patricia. Halo.
Selamat sore,
Halo Pak Jusnan.
Pak Adianto. Sore,
Halo, selamat sore Pak.
Adianto,
Hendra.
Pak Hendra, dan semuanya.
Halo Bu Patricia, selamat siang.
Selamat siang, Patrick.
Selamat siang Pak Jusnan dan semuanya.
Udah makan kan?
Sudah dong Pak.
Ya,
Masih di Singapura ya, Bu?
masih di Singapura dia.
Masih di sini, iya. Sini udah jam 3, udah lewat jam makan ya.
Tapi di Singapura masih lockdown atau seperti apa Bu Patricia?
Ya, kita bilangnya apa ya? Heightened restrictions.
Oh, nggak pakai istilah itu ya?
Iya, jadi nggak pakai istilah lockdown, tapi heightened restrictions. Jadi masih belum boleh makan di luar.
Masih oranye.
Ya, masih orange, Dorscon.
Iya ya. Sekarang di tempat kita malah banyak ini yang nambah ya.
Ya, Jakarta ya.
Iya.
Bingung jadinya.
Iya, udah varian-varian udah masuk semua nih. Delta apa gitu, macam-macam namanya sekarang ya.
Hampir di grup-grup yang kita ikutin selalu aja tiap hari ada seperti itu. Waduh. Semakin.
Ini Bang Hendra sama Bang Adianto ini sudah vaksin belum?
Saya sudah Pak. Ya.
Saya baru sekali Pak. Lama sekali kalau pakai apa itu
AstraZeneca ya.
AstraZeneca 3 bulan.
Iya, 3 bulan katanya.
Aku malah belum nih.
Weh.
Oh, padahal kemarin ada yang jatah asosiasi Pak.
Ya, aku tunggu ini yang VGR aja lah Pak. Atau royong aja lah. Biar negara bebannya berkurang. Kalau Patricia di Singapura sudah?
Sekarang sudah masuk ke grup age-nya saya. Jadi yang kemarin-kemarin kan masih yang orang lebih tua dulu. Sekarang masuk grup age, tapi saya belum dapat vaksin sih. Udah daftar tapi belum dipanggil.
Jangan pakai kata lebih tua dong, nanti Pak Hendra nanti itu, aduh.
Udah
Nggak bermaksud Pak, mohon maaf.
senior citizen gitu.
Ya, ya.
Actually, guys, I do understand what you're talking about. I have one message for Patricia.
Yeah.
Patricia, banyak muda. So belum vaksin ya, banyak muda.
Nice to see you again, Jipan.
Saya orang lama, so vaksin sudah habis, you know. Sudah.
Oh, sudah.
Oh,
Orang lama.
Oh.
Pak Jipa sudah vaksin. You understand, Pak?
Pfizer. Sekarang ada Pfizer dan Sinovac.
Selamat siang Bapak-Bapak, izin gabung Pak Irianto, teman-teman yang lain.
Selamat datang, Pak. Selamat Pak datang, Pak
Halo.
Arius Dimara.
Pak Arius, salam kenal. Selamat siang,
Salam
Pak.
kenal Pak Hendra.
Salam kenal Pak Arius.
Salam kenal, Pak.
Pak Arius dari Kalimantan ya, Pak?
Iya, dari Banjarbaru.
Banjarbaru. Siapa? Terima kasih waktunya.
Siap.
Ini
Ada Pak Lars.
Pak Lars ada.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good afternoon, Pak Lars.
Hi, Justin. So is everyone there?
Yes, Pak.
Or anyone missing?
Sebentar.
Who will do the China presentation?
Oh, Jimmy Deng ya, Pak Jimmy Deng.
Pak Jimmy Deng, Pak. Pak Jimmy Deng, noted, Pak.
Where are you based, Pak Lars?
Well, I live in Switzerland, but I'm actually currently in Jakarta. I'm in
You're currently in
quarantine.
Jakarta.
I'm in Jakarta in quarantine. I'm looking out into the haze.
Oh, okay. How long will you be in quarantine?
I'm done on the weekend, so and then next week
Oh,
I'm
okay.
still
Will
here.
be released on weekend. Oh, great.
Only 5 days, right, Lars?
Yes, correct. 5
Dr.
days.
Lars, was there a direct flight from Frankfurt to Jakarta?
No, the only flight either Singapore or Dubai, but I went via Singapore. So I had it was quite a sad, go via Singapore. It's just amazing how that airport has changed. You know, you go into I
Yeah,
don't know, it's very
like a
strange.
zombie city, right?
Yeah, it's not nice. Not
Yes.
nice. No.
Exactly.
Dr. Lars, is it a 7 or 14-day quarantine for you in Jakarta? 7 or
5 days.
5.
Yeah, but I mean, they test you. I'm tested before. I mean, you're non-stop tested. I don't get it. I'm vaccinated as well. I don't get it. You know, but it is the way it is. Yeah. So in Europe, it's not like that anymore. US not like that anymore. Africa not. Right? It's only Asia who is that strict now.
Yeah, I saw it in the Euro. So all the football fans, they didn't wear mask at all. And I heard France is issuing a policy of mask off. Yeah, France.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's okay. It's the way it is.
Bang Adianto,
Ya,
Pak Sujatmiko hari ini tidak hadir kan ya? Dia kan
Sujatmiko
lagi di Bali kan ya?
tadinya kan jam 2, jam 2 pas, tapi tadi dia bilang saya boleh jam 3 nggak masuknya gitu, Pak.
Oke, karena dia tuh sekarang kayaknya di Bali nih, Pak.
Ini tadi kata kita lagi di WA.
Work from
Ya.
Bali ya. Work from Bali.
Hari ini ada meeting, Pak. Ada meeting antara several big coal supplier and PLN and also ESDM.
Iya. Di Bali.
Itu di Bali, Pak ya?
Itu di Bali, Pak. Soalnya tadinya saya juga itu harus pergi, namun saya ini tidak diizinkan oleh dokter perusahaan, jadi ganti orang lain.
Oh, itu yang organize siapa, Pak?
Dari Minerba, Pak.
Oh.
Pak Dirjen juga ke sana ya, salah ya?
Saya kurang tahu apakah Pak Dirjen juga di sana atau tidak. Namun Pak Jatmiko itu sudah pasti di sana kelihatannya, Pak.
Selamat siang Bapak semua, Pak Hendra.
Halo Bu Desi, selamat siang.
Selamat siang Ibu Desi.
Pak Yusnan, sehat semuanya ya Pak ya?
Puji Tuhan.
Puji Tuhan, sehat.
Sehat semua Bu.
Oke. Pak Adi, kita masih tunggu siapa lagi ya?
Ya. We start. Oh, udah jam 2 ya?
Udah jam 2, Pak.
But partisipannya masih 89 ya, 8. We have more than 350 participants. Actually, we expect 400 participants, but so far only 90 ya already join. But I think it's okay. Bu Pak Hendra.
Iya, siap. Silakan Bu Desi ya.
Mr. Pak Lars.
Yes, I'm
okay.
here.
Because Pak Lars is a keynote speaker, so we should ask Pak Lars dulu. Bu Desi, I think because we are already 2 o'clock, while waiting for our participant, we can start right now. Thank you.
Okay, Pak Adi, thank you. Hello everyone, good afternoon. I hope you are well, staying safe and healthy through this challenging time. I am Desi from Petromindo, and I would like to welcome you all to webinar series Coal Market and Price Outlook H2. What does additional output 75 million tons mean for export? On this webinar, we will try to and discuss together about the government's policy on coal export and its impact on global coal market and price outlook in 2021. And as you know, the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources has revised upward the country's coal production target this year to 625 million tons from the initial plan of 550 million tons. And the additional output of 75 million tons will be entirely dedicated for the export market. This webinar is proudly hosted by Coal and Mineral Asia Magazine and Petromindo. All right, I would like to extend a warm welcome to our speakers, panelists, and moderator who will join us today. Please welcome the first speaker. We have Bapak Sujatmiko. He is the Director of Coal Development at Directorate General of Mineral and Coal at Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources Indonesia. Pak Sujatmiko will be join us later. And please welcome our next speaker, Dr. Lars Chernikau, shareholder at HMS Bergbau. Hello, Dr. Lars.
How are you? Pleasure.
Fine, thank you for being with us today. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And please welcome our next speaker, Mr. Jimmy Deng. He is the General Manager of Indonesian branch of Century Commodities Solution or CCS. Hello, Pak Jimmy.
Hello, Bu Desi. Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you very much, Pak Jimmy, for joining us today.
Thanks for inviting me.
Kalimantan? Still at Kalimantan?
Oh yes, I just arrived last week. Yeah, I'm still in Kalimantan.
Okay, thank you. And please welcome our next speaker, Mr. G. Peh, Energy Finance Analyst at the Institute for Energy Economics and Financial Analysis, or IEEFA. Hello, Mr. Jipe.
Oh, Budesi, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Nice to see you again, and thank you for your time today. Please welcome our next speaker, our panelist, Bapak Yusnan Ruslan. Halo, Pak Yusnan.
Hello, good afternoon, Bu Desi. Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you, Pak Yusnan, Director of PT Tambang Raya Megah Tbk. And please welcome our next panelist, Miss Patricia Lumbangao, Market Research Manager at Adaro Coal Trade Services International. Hello, Bu Patricia.
Hi, Bu Desi. Hi, everyone.
Joining from Singapore, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Bu Patricia, for your time today. And please welcome our next panelist, Bapak Arius Dimara, President Director at Tanjung Alam Jaya, a coal unit of state control team giant PT Timah Tbk. Selamat siang, Pak Arius. Hello, Pak Arius. I think already join us.
Halo Bu Desi.
Hey, halo Pak, terima kasih.
Good
Thank you for your time.
everyone. Yeah.
And please welcome our moderator of this webinar, Bapak Hendra Sinadia, Executive Director of Indonesia Coal Mining Association. Halo Pak Hendra, thank you very much for your time today, Pak.
My pleasure. Thank you, Bu Desi.
Yes. And on behalf of the organizing committee, we would like to take a moment to give a sincere appreciation to our wonderful partners and sponsors. Please give a warm applause to our sponsors, PT Tanjung Alam Jaya, PT Geoservices, PT Kideco Jaya Agung, PT Chakra Jawara IVECO, and PT Putra Perkasa Abadi. Thank you very much for your great contribution on this webinar. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, all participants, please kindly note that if you have any questions during this webinar, you can type your questions in Q&A tab, and we will discuss your questions on Q&A session later on. Or perhaps if the speaker available, they can also directly answer your question in Q&A tab. And during the Q&A session, you may click raise hand, and we will activate your microphone so you can directly ask your question to the speaker. So without any further ado, I now give the virtual floor to Pak Hendra Sinadia. Please, Pak Hendra.
Terima kasih, Bu Desi. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Selamat siang. Thank you for joining Petromindo Coal Asia webinar event this afternoon with the special topic on the second half coal outlook, second half 2021, and a very specific sub-theme of the day's seminar is about the additional 75 million ton from Indonesia. What will be the effect of the coal demand? So it's very interesting topic. And by the way, approaching the end of the first half of 2021, surprisingly, coal prices still strong. And as coal miners, from the coal miners' perspective, we hope this trend will continue, hopefully until up to the second half. So we'd like to listen the perspective from the excellent speakers of the today webinar on the projections, on the projection on the second half. And we also like to listen, global coal supply demand trend in the second semester, and also price projection. And of course, we'd like to see the potential market on China and India, especially in the second half, and also the emerging Southeast Asia market. So the price is still strong in this first half, but the pressure is getting stronger on coal industry. So this is the situation that, albeit is critical, but it's still a good opportunity for coal miners, especially if we see the strong demand from countries such as China, and also from the Far East and other parts of the globe, as the country are recovering, the economy is in the recovery period. But however, the pandemic COVID-19 is still a threat, and some countries is entering into the third wave, fourth wave, then it potentially could disrupt the coal demand in the future. But so far, the coal demand is still strong, and then the coal price is still on the high level because of the supply scarcity due to the weather condition in some parts of Indonesia, Australia, and also in China. So this is the aspect that we like to listen to the speakers of the today webinar. Okay, so we try to finish the event 10 to 4. Yeah, so hopefully we can finish on time. Okay, the first speaker of today's seminar, we have Dr. Lars Chernikau. Is a very interesting speaker. It's always interesting to listen the perspective from Dr. Lars Chernikau. He is the shareholder of MSS IVECO. He is also author of the Economics of International Coal Trade. Yeah, he already issued 2 books. Yeah, so he's going to give us this perspective on overview of the global coal supply and demand trend in the second semester. Dr. Lars Chernikau lives in Switzerland, but now he's in Jakarta. So it's a great pleasure to have Dr. Lars Chernikau in this very good afternoon. Without further ado, I'd like to give opportunity for Dr. Lars Chernikau to present the topic, interesting topic in the first session of the webinar. So please, Dr. Lars, time is 25 minutes.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Can you see my screen?
Yes, it's clear. Yeah.
Perfect, perfect. Good afternoon to Asia and Australia, and I guess good morning to Europe and Africa. And if you're in the US, good night. Thank you very much for the opportunity to say a few words about the global coal market, and especially the second half and where we're going. It's indeed an interesting time we're in. And yes, as you're saying, Indonesia especially has significant goals to improve its production export capacity, and we will see where it goes. I'll try to say a few words about the market as a whole and just highlight a few points, and I think we'll have more detail on China and some of the other markets in the later discussions. First of all, I always say, check everything yourself. It's just my own opinion that I'm discussing. And of course, if you do quote me or discuss me, I would love to please see it first before it goes out. I've had a couple of the issues in the past where I was misquoted or things were sort of put out of context. Our company, just briefly, we've been in the business for several decades. We're based in Germany. It's a listed company, majority owned by our family. And we're active in Asia for many years, for almost 20 years, Africa, Europe, and the US. I myself, we can skip that, but basically I've been in the business for almost 20 years. And yes, have become very, very passionate about the business. And I really enjoy learning every day about new things on energy and coal and commodities and what's currently happening in the world. I like to start with this high-level overview, and I always like for you to, as a reminder, where we really are today. And this is just the primary energy worldwide for the past 150 years, and you can see where we've come from. Basically, we've come from a biomass-run world where we're just burning biomass and wood, and then coal came, then oil came, gas, nuclear, and just as a reminder, wind and solar today make up about 3% of total primary energy. And coal, gas, and oil is about 80%. And of course, coal with its share of about 25% in primary energy and about 1/3 in electricity is still one of the most important, if not the most important energy resource. So I think as a positive note, everybody in the coal industry, you are doing an amazing job keeping this world running. Without you, this would not be happening. We wouldn't be living the way we do. Now, I guess what's interesting what's going to happen in the next 20, 30 years, and we hear about these net zero discussions currently, and we're not going to talk about it today, but just as a reminder as well, primary energy will likely increase somewhere between 40 to 60, maybe even 70%. And why do I say that? Well, it's very simple. The energy per capita will increase probably about 20% as the Asian new world is developing and trying to catch up with the Western world. The average energy per capita will increase by about 20%. At the same time, population will increase by 25%. So that will be a total primary energy growth of about 50% in the next 30 years. And that's just a fact of life. Maybe it's 40%, maybe we're lucky 35%, but there will be a huge growth. And that's just to put things into perspective. What's interesting in today's world is the perspective of professionals in our own industry. And I just found this interesting statistics from South Africa. This was run by someone in South Africa, Mr. Bayoglu, and he had asked his followers, which will become the primary source of energy in South Africa. Now, South Africa depends for over 90% on coal today. And 50% say in the next decade, renewables will be the primary source of energy. And 30% said coal. I mean, I can't even tell you how wrong and misleading this is, and how our own industry has massive misconceptions about the energy industry, which is fueled by the media and the politics today. Now, I'm not saying that we don't need to do a lot about the environment. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, be realistic, what's happening. And this is our industry, people from our industry, what their view is. This is how we are completely misled by what we read every day in the press. Okay, back to Asia. The ASEAN had a new outlook, and we have GPay here as well, end of last year. And on the right side, you can see for the ASEAN, the development of the expectations for primary energy will probably grow by more than double in the next 20 years, from about 400 million tons of oil equivalents to over 900. And this is primary energy. Of course, that is transportation and industry are the main growth drivers of that energy requirements in the future. Now, coal, of course, only is a certain portion of that, because transportation is more oil related. But when you go to electricity, you see that the installed capacity, as per the ASEAN, how it will go up in the next years. Installed capacity will more than double as well. And you see how coal's installed capacity will grow. And of course, maybe some of this growth will now not come because of pressure from industry, from finance, from politics. But the fact is, we need to have some sort of energy from somewhere. And you see here the projections for coal, gas, and hydro, which is very important. On the right side, you see the power generation mix, which shows you that, of course, coal share may probably decline slightly in percentage terms, but in absolute terms, no question, there's no way without coal growing significantly in the Southeast Asian market. Now, when you see here on this chart, you see very small shares for solar and wind, and you may question why that is. Well, it actually has to do with natural resources. So this is the wind energy map from Europe, and you see that Europe, my own home country, Germany, we have relatively rich in wind resources. This is the same map for Southeast Asia. There practically is no wind in Asia. Neither is there in India. So it doesn't matter what you want to do, but you cannot generate large amounts of energy from wind because you just don't have the resource for it. Europe has the resource. Now, this is the sun irradiation map for Europe and North Africa. And of course, that is basically how much solar radiation there is that you can actually transform into solar energy. And this is that same map for Southeast Asia. So again, I'm here in Jakarta looking outside and there's no sun right now, and that's not uncommon. The fact is that Asia does not have enough sun resources. You have far less sun than Spain has. So even solar has very limited natural resource for you to extract. So the entire the push into wind and solar, I hope that the governments and the politicians in Asia understand that these investments will 95% go into nothing. Yeah, that has to do with capacity factors and many things. By the way, the US is a very different spot, and I mean California is one of the richest areas in terms of solar irradiation. Okay, back to coal. Now, the global coal consumption, I mean, there's this huge push globally against coal, but this is from the IEA from just December last year. And the IEA projects that, basically the coal consumption will be more or less stable. And there will be a significant drop in Europe and in the US, the West, of course, but that growth is coming primarily from India and Southeast Asia. That's obvious, whatever the numbers are, but the fact is we're gonna have many, many years of growth in Asia and Indonesia in the middle of that. Now, what happened in terms of thermal coal trade over the past years, and this red line is the growth per annum. And you can see, of course, last year, the COVID year, we had a 10% drop in thermal coal trade exports worldwide. This year, we are expecting an increase again, despite the issues we still have in India and various countries in Asia in terms of COVID. But we do expect that the global trade grows again. On the met coal side, it's probably even more. We expect a higher growth in the met coal side, with especially the steel demand coming up. Now, the same IEA had a projection about the trade, and again on the right side, you can see that growth from 2020 to 21. And what is the fuel? The fuel will be Asia and India. And the drop again continues to be in the Pacific and in the Atlantic, and the increase in the Pacific markets. Now, this is an older slide from Glencore that shows you actually the problems that we're facing in our industry, and it has to do with supply shortage long term. There's a structural supply shortage coming. On the right side, you can see that there's a certain demand range, more or less flat. But then if you just take today's capacity, export capacity into consideration, and then some of these capacity being at risk because of missing funding, there is a significant risk of them running into a supply shortage in terms of coal. Very, very significant one. And that will be an issue we have to consider. Coal is still the lowest cost source of power. Whenever you read about levelized cost of electricity, be careful. You cannot compare LCOE for wind, solar, and coal. On factors for a system level, coal remains the cheapest there is, despite the current cost and price increases. And of course, the increasing supply risk is a serious issue, as we mentioned. And that's Indonesia, which is a 40% supply of global export capacity, of course, in the midst of that. And very much depends on how Indonesia will act against this supply risk looming, which of course is also an opportunity. Second global, macroeconomic thing that's happening in our industry is that drop in average energy content of the coal that we are exporting, right? And this is again a Glencore slide. You can see how that average quality has been dropping worldwide. So that again means actually you need to move more tons, right, to get the same energy out of it. Glencore is still very lucky; they have a very high energy portfolio. But again, just to keep in mind, you see same Indonesia, higher quality coals are reducing in export capacity, but the lower qualities are there, and that means actually volumes have to increase, just to supply the same amount of energy to the customers. The third thing that's happening is actually that the costs actually are reducing, and this is a bit of a bad slide, but on the left side you can see how over the years the cost curve has moved to the right, which basically means that more capacity is available at lower cost in the market on average. Of course, it's always very ramped up, and it's similar on the met coal side. And you can also see here that basically last year when prices were around $50 for high CV coal, you could see that half, if not more, than of the coal mines were running below marginal cost of production. So they were losing money. So of course, today, that high level price levels we have is a very welcome break for some of the coal mines who can start to make up back that money that they've lost last year. Okay, back from the macro more into what's currently happening. So let's first talk about China. And again, I just say one slide and then we'll later have Jimmy talk more about it. These are the monthly imports for China from steam coal. And you can see 2019, 2020, and the first 5 months for 2021. And what I found interesting actually is to see that in those first 5 months, despite the current dramatic increase we've seen into imports to China, actually, China is importing less this year in the first 5 months than they imported in the last 2 years in the first 5 months. Now, of course, what's happening here differently for Indonesia is that because of the Australia-Chinese issues, Indonesia's share has increased. Australia has gone to zero, right? But just to keep in mind, China is not, booming like you may think compared to other years in terms of total imports. India is the domestic thermal coal supply continues to grow every year, and that's also expected for the next 5 years, but that growth will probably not be enough. And it is expected that India will continue to import slightly more over the next years every year. We had that significant drop last year during COVID. Now, of course, the first half year has still been tough for India very much, and this is a little of an older slide from January here. But on average, you'll see that India's growth will be there, and that, of course, is good news for Indonesia. Vietnam, just as a proxy for Southeast Asia, you're aware of this dramatic increase in imports over the past 5, 6, 7 years, which has come from basically nothing to almost 50 million tons of imports last year. But the thing in 2021, again, it looks very different, right? So the first 5 months for Vietnam have, in terms of volumes, be significantly below 2020. So we're I don't know, we're probably 30, 25% below last year. And so that is an issue. Of course, for Indonesia, it's okay because China took these tons, right? But you have to watch out for this fundamental shift, and we have to watch how Vietnam, as the main Southeast Asian import market, will develop. The other markets are relatively flat. There's not that much change in terms of Philippines, Malaysia. Now, the first 5 months on the supply side. Now, these are numbers from Pere. Somebody may have different numbers, but roughly we see that Indonesia was apparently able to increase already 20, 15, 20, maybe even 25 million tons of export, while Australia dropped, right? And that can be expected because of the Chinese issues. However, Australia managed to compensate significantly, but compete with Indonesia in some of those other markets. South Africa dropped. We can talk about South Africa separately, but South Africa is in a big mess, rail capacity-wise. Colombia was still down, probably going to go up again. Russia is up significantly. So Russia, of course, is taking its share in the Asian market and competing where they didn't used to compete. But overall, the supply side has increased in the past 5 months, and I would expect that continues for the second half as well. Now, the supply forecast for the year, whatever it are, but you have those 5 main supply regions: Indonesia, Australia, Russia, South Africa, and Colombia. Indonesia remains with 40% the most important and key market. And I guess we can expect Indonesia to definitely go up. We are discussing later the issue about the 75 million ton extra export capacity. By the way, if I'm not mistaken, I think the 140 million tons were asked by the mines to increase, and only 75 million were granted. Australia will probably drop. South Africa will definitely drop. Colombia is coming back now. We see that in Europe. That's definitely coming back. Now, on the demand side, those 6 main regions, right? China, India, Southeast Asia as a whole, and then of course, Japan, Korea, and Taiwan. Those are the main import markets. And I would say, and of course, then you have some of the Europeans, not so important. They have become not relevant anymore. But I would say that China is at question what happens. We discussed that with Jimmy later. I'm not sure in terms of total tonnage. China has had significant outages, shortages, significant increase in demand. But at the same time, in the first half, they haven't performed in terms of total imports. The Southeast Asian markets will increase. Korea probably go down. India will increase, right? And then, of course, some of the Med, Turkey, Egypt will also increase. These are just on the high level. And one other subject we shouldn't forget is the freight, right? So I love this one. Even though it's the Atlantic, but it's basically the same true. This is just for Supramax. Sorry, I didn't say that here. For Supramax, you can see how the 5-year average time charter rate was around $10,000, $8,000 a day, and now we're at $30,000 a day. Freight rates have increased 3 times, tripled in some markets, even more than that. And what's also interesting that actually the supply side on the freight has not increased the way you would expect. So this is just the bulk ordering for per quarter over the past years, and you can see on the right side where we are now. So it appears that the freight owners, the cargo, no, not the cargo owners, the vessel owners are enjoying this market as much as the coal exporters are enjoying it. They've had very, very tough time last year and even the years before, and now they're reaping the money. And of course, you can assume that their interest to actually increase capacity is quite limited, right? Because they're enjoying high price levels. Why would you want to increase capacity? Of course, everybody wants to sort of get back, make extra money, but at the same time, the industry as a whole actually is not interested to add capacity. All right, good. Let's go back to the prices. That's the price curve over the last 20 years. And you can see that on average, you see this, the lower points in price, even though last year we reached very, very low levels, but generally they will come up as the cost curve from the very cheap mines increases. But you see this significant price increase. We're now at about 130 in Newcastle. We're at 110 in South Africa for 6,000 NAR. And even for the Indonesian coals, I mean, you have amazing prices for low CV coal. That is, yeah, what is it? Is it the beginning, or is it the end, or is it the middle of where we're going to be in the future? Oops, sorry, didn't want to go there. I think we're missing something here. Well, but you see these previous spikes, right, that we had here in 2008, which was extraordinary, and then here in 2011, which was also quite extra. And then we had this long 5-year drop here until 2016. And then this recovery after 16, 17, 18, and then of course 19, 20, this significant drop. The question is what will happen in the future. I don't know. I can make a guess. We can talk about it, but this is where we currently are. And going on a weekly basis, just the past 2 years, you can see that every end of the year we had the spike in prices, and I have here the South African price, the Colombian price, and the green line for the 4.7 NAR Indonesia, and of course Newcastle. And you can see that every end of the year prices spiked, probably driven by a bit of market manipulation, I would suggest. But now we are really at levels far higher than before, at least in the past years. And you can also see that the Indonesian price levels have really spiked with it. While in the past, Indonesians have not been able to keep up much with the short-term spikes, this time Indonesia really can keep up that spike. So what will happen? We don't know. Yeah, 2 more minutes, I'm finished. Yeah, thank you. Okay. So what will happen? We don't know, but this increase is a good one, interesting one. This was a drop. Now, one more point about this risk of investment. So we talk about missing investment. This lack of funding for fossil fuels, not only in coals, also in gas and in oil. This is just a sense of how much money will be lost in gas and oil in the future. And even for the gas and oil industry, we will likely go into an energy crisis if investment doesn't increase significantly. And that's, I guess, I will skip this one. One of the main things we have to consider also in our discussions with the government and with the institutions. So I would say as a whole, I want to state one thing about the environment. It is hugely important that we continue to focus on reducing coal mining's environmental footprint. There's so much that needs to be done, and these high price levels we are now, I would hope that the companies do put some share of that money aside for future, environmental regeneration of their mining footprint. I think that's a very important point. The second half coal market, I would suggest, is more or less in balance. I don't think we're generally in a shortage of coal. Maybe in certain markets, of course, you are, but overall, I think we're more or less in balance. I believe prices are too high. The second half does look strong, maybe lower than current levels. I don't know. Why do I say it's too high? Because at $110 for 6,000 NAR, I mean, we're so far above cost, it doesn't make sense. And unless there's really an underlying supply, a shortage of coal, such high levels, I don't think can sustain for very long. But I might be proven wrong. We will see, right? I mean, it's not only supply and demand; it's also sentiment and local things. And then it depends on China, right? That's what it depends on. At India, right? These are the two main markets which we will talk about, and it depends on. But the key thing, and I want to just urgently also advise that whoever is listening from the government, investment is urgently needed into all forms of reliable power and energy. And we need to invest in and not divest from fossil fuels to improve its environmental footprint. That's the key message, which I think is quite obvious if you think about it. So I think I'm done. Hendra, I ran over a couple of minutes, but thank you very much. Asia doesn't have sufficient sun or wind, don't forget that. Coal, oil, and gas are required. Investments are at risk, and that risk means if we don't act, there will be an energy crisis. And I'm not kidding. I don't mean this seriously. There will be an energy crisis if we don't ramp up seriously investments. There will be a crisis, and there's only one country that will gain. That's China. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lars Shanikau from HMS Berbau. It's a very informative presentations. I like the last slides. Yeah, the some warning and education needed. And yeah, you said that China is investment losing potential investment. Yeah, fossil are at risk, and okay. In your last slide, also you mentioned about two important markets remains China, India, and then yeah, you said also the projection for the second half still looks strong, yeah, but lower than the current level also. And the most important, thing is, environmental protection is highly needed to minimize the ecological damage footprint. Yeah. So, it's very interesting presentation from Dr. Lars. You also cover up about the projection on the supply and demand in the second half. You mentioned a little bit about Indonesia supply, and Australia is likely to decline in the second half, lower than the previous levels. But Indonesia probably is higher. Yeah? So we'd like to listen further from the Indonesian government representative later on. So thank you very much, Dr. Lars for the very insightful information. We'll get back to you in the Q&A sessions. Oke, selamat siang Pak Sujatmiko sudah hadir.
Selamat siang Pak Indra dan Bu sekalian.
Terima kasih. Selamat siang menjelang sore Pak Sujatmiko, Direktur.
Salam dari Bali Pak.
Wah, ini lagi di Bali ya. So work from Bali, ada event di Bali. Pak Sujatmiko menyempatkan diri untuk hadir bersama kita semua. Terima kasih banyak, ini kehormatan Pak Sujatmiko dengan kesibukan di acara penting di Bali, menyempatkan untuk hadir di webinar yang cukup penting ya kali ini karena membahas mengenai projection di second semester 2021 dan juga implikasi dari revisi target pemerintah untuk meningkatkan produksi batu bara di 2021 seperti yang telah diumumkan beberapa waktu yang lalu. Oke, jadi kita dengar saja pandangan dari Pak Sujatmiko, Direktur Pembinaan Pengusahaan Batubara, Direktorat Jenderal Mineral Direktorat Kementerian SDM. Waktunya dipersilakan Pak, 15 sampai 20 menit, monggo.
Terima kasih Pak Indra. Terima kasih nih Petermindo dan PBI juga teman-teman semuanya yang telah mengundang kami untuk sharing kebijakan pemerintah atau update lah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sore, salam sejahtera kembali semua. Salam dari Bali. Jadi hari ini kami di Bali mengadakan tanda tangan komitmen pasukan batubara antara pemasok dengan PLN untuk memastikan demo terpenuhi Pak. Nah, di salah-salah itu saya hadir di sini untuk memberikan ya update kepada teman semuanya, para hadirin di sini. Saya diminta oleh Petermindo untuk menyampaikan update mengenai kebijakan ekspor dan juga demo batubara dan juga kebijakan batubara secara umum. Namun sebelum itu saya tadi terkesan dengan paparannya Pak Dr. Lars Skernichen ya, yang tadi mengatakan di saat harga bagus maka investasi, kan tadi Pak Lars mengatakan environment. Nah, saya langsung sambut juga di sini mumpung masih in. Saya meminta teman-teman di PBI terutama teman-teman pengusaha batubara pada saat harga tinggi ini kan katakanlah kita punya room fiskal yang luar biasa untuk baik bagi utamanya menjaga keberlanjutan pengusahaan batubara kita. Nah, oleh karena itu kan tadi kan Pak Lars mengatakan pressure dari Western dan sebagainya, dan pemerintah di sini Minerba itu menghimbau atau menargetkan agar kita bisa mengusahakan batubara kita sebagaimana cadangan atau sumber daya kita miliki. Nah, kalau tantangan lingkungan makin banyak, maka kita harus mulai mengedepankan gerakan atau investasi, kalau boleh saya share ini adalah responsible use of coal atau responsible investment atau enterprise in coal lah itu. Jadi kalau batu bara ini kan sebagai sumber energi, sumber bahan baku, kalau dalam pemanfaatannya kita harus konsisten lingkungan, ya. Oleh karena itu kebijakan pemerintah kita mengetahui ada hilirisasi batu bara. Undang-undang kita memerintahkan atau mewajibkan untuk melaksanakan hilirisasi. Nah, downstream industri batu bara ini harapannya bisa memberikan kesempatan atau peluang untuk bagaimana batu bara bisa digunakan lebih bijaksana, lebih bertanggung jawab untuk satu, memenuhi energi, kedua sebagai bahan baku industri, dan juga memenuhi concern atau permintaan global terhadap perlindungan lingkungan. Jadi itulah yang kira-kira bisa nanti menjadi bahan kita bersama. Nah, terkait dengan ekspor, pemerintah sudah memberikan peningkatan produksi 75 juta ton di tahun 2021. Memang ini didedikasikan untuk ekspor. Artinya Indonesia siap untuk memenuhi kebutuhan batu bara di kawasan Asia Pasifik dan juga market-market yang sekarang ini menjadi pasar ekspor kita. Namun juga demo dipenuhi. Artinya kalau orang mengatakan dikotomi ekspor tinggi, harga tinggi, nah demo bagaimana nasibnya pemerintah memastikan ekspor tinggi bagus untuk industri tambang, namun juga demo-nya tidak boleh ditinggalkan. Nah, itu menjadi kewajiban, karena sudah menjadi kewajiban pengusaha. Hari nggak ada lagi dikotomi Pak Jusnan atau Pak Arius. Jadi ekspor tinggi ya bagus, kita untuk punya keuntungan baik. Namun juga jangan lupa yang 25% itu kan sudah kita pledge sejak awal, sejak RKB, bahwa produksi kita 25% didedikasikan untuk demo. Regardless berapapun harga BA-nya lah. Ini sudah menjadi kebijakan nasional dan ini menjadi komitmen kita bersama. Oleh karena itu, pemerintah dan saya yakin juga teman-teman pengusaha batubara juga feel comfort, harga makin tinggi juga, demo juga makin bagus pemenuhannya. Nah, oleh karena itu, saya juga menyampaikan kepada yang di sini bahwa kebijakan harga kita demo tetap kita $70 per ton untuk batu bara yang dipakai untuk kelistrikan umum, karena memang ini bagian dari tugas pemerintah untuk menyediakan listrik atau energi yang affordable bagi rakyatnya melalui pengaturan di sisi hulunya dalam hal industri primernya batu bara. Nah, kemudian saat ini realisasi batu bara produksi masih belum sepenuhnya lancar karena kita tahu di awal semester pertama atau triwulan pertama kan ada faktor cuaca, dan harapan kami juga akan support full bagi penambang untuk memperlancar produksinya sehingga pada saat sampai akhir tahun itu target-target yang sudah dipenuhi dapat dikerjakan dan sehingga industri makin bagus, pemerintah juga mendapatkan manfaat dari kenaikan harga dan sebagainya ini. Oleh karena itu kita juga berupaya untuk menjamin atau berkolaborasi dengan pasar-pasar ekspor kita. Minggu depan kita akan ketemu India untuk kolaborasi bagaimana G2G-nya jalan sehingga kepentingan Indonesia dalam ini ekspor batubara juga lebih bisa dijamin di India. Selanjutnya mengenai produksi dan pemasarannya kita akan pantau, dan yang terakhir untuk hilirisasi alhamdulillah sudah mulai jalan. Paling tidak ada 3 inisiatif hilirisasi batubara yang PTBA, kemudian KPC dan Artmin. Sejauh ini perkembangannya bagus, artinya secara bisnis downstream batubara ini bisa dilaksanakan dan pemerintah memberikan insentif yang diperlukan. Royalti 0%, kemudian harga batubara khusus untuk demo dan untuk penggunaan hilirisasi ini. Barangkali itu Pak Rehendra dan Pak Buskari yang bisa sampaikan. Saya mohon maaf ada acara lain, nanti Pak Dodi dan tim akan ikut virtual di sini ya. Terima kasih, selamat sore, selamat sehat selalu.
Terima
saya izin
kasih
Pak ya.
Terima kasih
Pak Jadmiko.
Live dulu sebentar, terima kasih.
Terima kasih banyak Pak.
Ya.
Thank you very much Pak Sujatmiko. He's coal director at the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources. He's now in Bali attending an important event, the signing of the supply contract between the PLN and coal miners in Bali. Yeah? So witnessed by the government. And Pak Jatmiko also mentioned about some updates that Indonesia government reiterated the commitment of Indonesian government on the coal development of the coal downstream investment. Yeah, this is something that has been the main policy of the Indonesian Ministry of Mines. So the ministry is pushing for investment in the coal downstream. And he also appreciated your Dr. Last presentations, especially on the environmental side. And Pak Jatmiko also urged the companies to be more responsible in environmental, be more cautious and environmental, and do utmost effort to to do the value added, call the value added. So because this is something that has been the core policy of the Indonesian governments. Okay, thank you very much, Pak Sujatmiko. He regret that he has to attend another meeting in Bali. So one of his staff, I believe one of his staff has been assigned to respond if there is any question from the audience. Okay, thank you very much. And we now move to the next presenter. Yeah. Okay, the next presenter, we'll see. Okay, it's Dr. Lars in his presentation mentioned about the importance of China market. Yeah, China market remains the main important market for years to come. So with that, listen, the perspective from traders from China is Mr. Jimmy Deng. He's been in the country for several years. Is going to present China market outlook in the second semester. What additional coal supply from Indonesia means to China export market. So without further ado, Pak Jimmy Deng, he's General Manager of Indonesia branch of Century Commodity Solutions, to give us the presentation. The time is 10 minutes. Yeah, Pak Jimmy.
Hello,
Yeah.
Hendra. Yeah,
Hey,
can you hear
nice
me?
to see you again. Are you in Kalimantan now? Yeah.
Yes, just arrived last week.
Okay, good to see you.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Pak Jimmy.
Okay, thank you, Hendra, for your introduction, and also thanks for Dr. Last, the very insightful presentation. So today, let me open my presentation, the slides. So can you see my slides?
Yes, Pak.
Hello?
Yes,
okay.
we can see your slides. Go ahead, Pak.
Okay. So today the presentation consists of 5 parts. The first one is about the price review in the first half, and the second part is about the Chinese economy performance in first half, and the third part is about the energy production, and the fourth part about the coal production and the import, and the last part is about the outlook of the coal demand in the second half. So I just choose 3 indexes to represent the price movement in the past 3 years. The first one is the Newcastle index, which was reported $125 last week, which is around 137% increase from the same period of last year. And the second part is the ICI4 GR42 was reported $58.44. It's around 130% increase from the same period of last year. And last one is the CCI NER55, which is the FOB Qinhuangdao in north part of China. It was in 950 RMB, including the VAT, 13% VAT. Compared to FOB, it's almost $130, which is around 66% increase from the same period of last year. So the prices are all very firm enough, and the prices in like in a 10 years high level. So this one, the high price is driven by the very strong, very positive economy. So let's look at the main indicators of the Chinese economy. The GDP grew 18% in Q1, and the GDP is expected to grow in Q2 around 8.2% in China. And also the investment in the fixed assets increased around 20%, and in the secondary industry is around 21% increase. Those investment will definitely requires more energy. And also the import and export in the first 4 months increased around 34%, and with the import increase 38% and export increase around 30%. And the total consumption increased around 25%, which is around 14 trillion China yuan. And also the PMI, the manufacturing PMI was reported 51% in May. And this is also very strong and a positive sign of the Chinese economy. So all in all, the Chinese economy has fully recovered from the impact of the COVID-19 and even exceed the level before the pandemic. The strong economy will definitely requires more energy. Then look at the power generations. The total power generation was increased around 16% in the first 5 months. This is all the power generation. Then we'll break down, look at each kind of a source. So this one is the new energy, including the nuclear, solar, and wind energy. As you can see, every year the output of the new energy is increasing steadily, and the new energy power generation with 4.7 thousand trillion watt hour in the first 5 months. This is around like 28% increase from the same period of last year. This is very significant, but the new energy still takes a very small part of the total energy in China. Then let's look at the hydropower generation. The hydropower generation was around 3.7 thousand trillion watt, and in the first 5 months, with very slightly increase from last year. But the hydropower is going to its peak season from June, July, and August. And the next one is about the thermal coal power generation. So the output of the thermal coal power generation is around 24,000 trillion watt in the first 5 months. This is 16% increase from last year. This is a very significant increase because this is the main reason for the demand of the coal, and also the coal price increased so much. And also the peak season is not yet coming yet, and the peak season is basically in China is for the thermal coal power generation is July, August. And this one is about the Chinese domestic coal production. The output of coal is about 1.6 billion in the first 5 months. This is around 11% increase from the same period of last year. But in recently there are many frequent mining accidents. This will trigger more strict security check on the mining side. So the coal production is expected to slowing down. This is why, because the thermal coal demand is going to the high season, and also the more strict on the security checks. This will enlarge the shortage of the coal supply in domestic China. And this one is around for the import coal. Till end of last month, the total import coal volume is around 111 million metric tons of coal. This declined about 25% from the same period of last year. The main reason is because of the ban on the Australian coal. There's zero coal from Australia, and also from Indonesia itself. We will say from next slide, Indonesia, China import around 56 million tons of thermal coal from Indonesia this in the first 5 months, and this around like 10% decline from the same period of last year. And Russia increased around like almost 30%, but Russia is only like 12 million. And for Philippines and Mongolia, the total volume is very small, so we didn't focus on that one. And you can see the Australian coal. Last year, China imported the thermal coal from Australia is around 42 million metric tons of coal. But this year, there will be definitely no cargo from Australia at all. This also will give us more chances for Indonesian coal to export to China. This is why we expect that the control on the import coal will be eased for the coal originated from non-Australian, from outside of Australia. And this one is about the installed power generation capacity by end of April. The coal is still the major source of power generation in China. It accounts for 56%, and the increase around 4% from last year. And hydro accounts for 17% and increase around 4.2%. And the wind and solar energy is still minority, but increased very significantly, which is wind power capacity increased around like 35%, and the solar energy capacity increased around like 25%. And nuclear is the traditional energy is still relatively less increased. And by end of April this year, the total power capacity is around 22.2 trillion watts, which is around like almost 10% increase from the same period of last year. And this one is about the coal consumption by industries in 2021. So for electricity industry, the total consumption was expected to consume coal as much as 2.2 billion metric tons of coal, which is around 3% increase from last year. And it's from steel industry, it's around like 740 million, which is a 4.2% increase. And for the construction industry, still same with same level with last year, around 480 million. And the chemistry, around 300 million measures of coal consumption with a very slight increase. And for other industry, the total consumption of the coal will decline, but with very small proportion. So make a summary is like the Chinese GDP is projected, the whole year in 2021 is projected to grow by 8.5%. This according to the World Bank. And the coal energy is still dominant with a very slight increase. And Chinese coal production is slowing down, but I expect to catch up because of the relaxation on the security check after July, after the 100 years anniversary of the Chinese Communist Party. We expect the security check will be relaxed on the mining side. And also the new energy is still a minority, but growing very fast, like the solar and the wind energy is going very fast, around like around 30% increase every year. And also for the last part is about the ban on the Australian coal will still carry on, but the import coal control will be eased for other regions like Indonesia, like from Russia, Philippines, and even South Africa. So that's my presentation. Thank you. Thank you for your attention. Andrew.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Jimmy Peng, for the very informative, insightful presentations. Pak Jimmy Deng is a General Manager of Indonesia branch of Century Community Solutions. It's very interesting information that you presented, on the prospect of the Australian coal export to China, and what does it mean to Indonesian exporters, and also the highlights of the import, coal import in China for the first half and projects in the second half. And of course, the China economics is growing very fast, and it's gonna reach the 8.5% growth in 2021, as you point out, and it will be a positive sign for coal exporters such as Indonesia to take the opportunity on the growing demand and electricity demand in China. Thank you very much, Pak Jimmy. We'll get back to you in the Q&A sessions. Okay, thank you. All the participants, if you have any questions and would like to raise to the panelists, please fill in the chat column in the Q&A column, Q&A button. Okay, the next presenter is Mr. Jive from the Institute for Energy Economics and Financial Analysis, or IVECO, the presentation on understanding ASEAN coal market outlook in the second semester. What are the opportunities for Indonesian mining companies? As we know, the Southeast Asian countries are very important market for Indonesia. If we combine all the Southeast Asian country as a one single market, it's account of the more than 20% of the total Indonesian export, or the third biggest Indonesian export destinations after China and India. So this is how important Southeast Asian market to Indonesian coal exporter. So without further ado, Mr. Jive, please, your time is 15 minutes maximum. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Pahendra. Thank you. This is Guy here. I am going to start the sharing right now, and let me just start the slideshow. Give me a minute. Okay, slideshow. Let me just. Okay, great. Hi. Yes. So we're looking at the opportunities for ASEAN for Indonesian companies. The first thing we want to say is I'll give an introduction on IEFA, and then we talk about Vietnam and Philippines because we have analysts based there who are experts in their field. And first, I'll give the game away first. There's 28 million tons of demand, of coal demand coming from these two markets for the next 5 years. So that's the good news. But there's other news which we want to talk about after that as well. Yeah. So let's start on. So what is IEFA? We are a think tank. We are non-profit. We're here to help everybody. We want a sustainable, we want a profitable, environmental friendly energy economy for all. And we are funded by global organizations and individuals. Yeah. Okay. Moving on from there. Okay. It's been a very strange year, and Dr. Lars, thank you, Dr. Lars, for talking about it as well. Obviously, last year we had the shock of the pandemic and the coal output, everything went down. But obviously, first quarter has been good because India's coming back. China's great. You know, thank you, Jimmy, as always. And also because of the China ban on Australia, it's been an opportunity for Indonesia, even though Australia, as Mahendra has mentioned, has gone to India to really steal market share from Indonesia. And that's why ASEAN is very important. So I just want to set the context for ASEAN. So for January, India imported more from Australia, including coking coal, than Indonesia. But let's talk about ASEAN. So we've compiled all the first quarter 2020. This is all public information. And it's very clear that Indonesian companies have shifted to ASEAN, which fair enough, because it's a function of India is a very difficult market because you've got the virus possible threats there, and you've got Australia trying to sell more into there. So it's a tough market right now for Indonesia, and ASEAN is much closer, and Vietnam, Philippines, they have coal projects coming on stream. So fair enough, no problem. Okay, and that's why the 4 companies we've looked at, Adaro, thank you, Patricia, Bayan, Indika, and ITMG, they've all shifted to ASEAN. So obviously Indonesia is included as well, but if you take out Indonesia, as Mahendra said, it's about 20% of your sales. So it is a very big market. And also taking out the India risk to your business is also quite good from a business point of view, because with India, the demand's all over the place, and it's nobody's fault because it's just the nature of the virus there. Okay, let's talk about Vietnam. Now, Vietnam's actually coal imports was down 34%. But this is a function of hydropower, and this is a function of more renewables energies coming through. And also Vietnam now has the issue with the virus, which may also crimp their sort of industrial activity. And Dr. Lars has said Vietnam imported 55 million tons last year. It's fantastic. And that was all because Vietnam managed to keep the virus under control. So they had a very normal industrial growth, economic growth. So that's good. Indonesia is number 2. Behind Australia, and but for the second half of this year, it's going to be a bit tough because the renewable share has gone up, and the good news is that there will be 7.3 gigawatts of coal-fired capacity coming on, so that's about 18 million tons. So that's the good news for Indonesia if you want to supply to Vietnam. The bad news, of course, is that as we talked about the last time I spoke in January on Coal Asia, was that you've got competition from Australia, you've got competition especially from Russia as well, right? So there'll be an issue as well. So for the second half, you've got more renewables, hydropower, and then you've got slower activities in the virus. So, you know, a bit tricky in the second half. Now for Indonesia, for Philippines, the good news is that there was a coal moratorium, but in the coal moratorium, the projects that have been committed will go ahead. Okay, so that's the good news, right? And the committed projects is about 3.9 gigawatts, okay? So 700 megawatts, 0.7 gigawatts is coming on stream this year. So that would be 1.7 million tons for this year, for the Philippines alone, okay? The other 3.2 is going to come by 2025, and you're looking at about 8 million tons. The issue, and this is obviously something Dr. Lars feels strongly about, is that the renewables capacity is 5 times larger, the pipeline at about 19.3 gigawatts. So the Philippines government has made that policy commitment, and you know they're going to go ahead with that. What happens, we'll find out in the next 5 years. So my key points so far, I just want to summarize. Vietnam is good for 19 gigawatts, and 7 gigawatts, so there's about 19 million tons there. Philippines is good for about 8 million tons after this year, and they're good for 1.7 million tons this year. So for the 75 million tons coming out of Indonesia, at least with these two countries, you have 28 million tons to supply. Okay, so 28 out of 75, yeah, that's about 40%. That's not bad. There's a place we can work with that. Okay, and now finally, this is elephant in the room, and we're here to help. Okay, we're here to help, right? But it's a very complicated issue, and I just want to raise it very briefly before I conclude, is that 29 global asset managers have come out against coal, and their policies, investment policies, are out in the public domain. We've put down Abadi and BlackRock in here. We have a website, the link, you're more welcome, it's free access. You're more than welcome. We will add the list when these people come out. And they want to place the onus on coal companies to decarbonize. Now we at IFA, we stand in the middle. We're not angry, but there are a lot of very angry investors out there. And some coal companies have hired decarbonizing consultants. We have talked to these consultants, and we're here to just deliver a message, right? And the message is that they want coal companies to produce less coal, basically. So on that note, Pahendra, thank you. It's always a pleasure. It's great to be among friends on a Friday. And over to you, Pahendra. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jive, as the Institute for Energy Economics and Financial Analysis, or IAVA. It's very insightful information you presented. Mr. Jive has been covering ASEAN market for many years, yeah. So the information that you presented is very helpful, and based on your analysis, it's about roughly close to 40% potential demand for Indonesian coal exporter to fill in growing demand from countries like Philippines and Vietnam in particular, yeah. So Vietnam is among the best performer country in economic recovery post pandemic. So we do expect increased demand from Vietnam, and also the Philippines, despite the moratorium, but there is still a commitment from the government to continue on the existing coal-fired power plant that has been approved by the government. Thank you very much. We'll get back to you on the Q&A sessions. Okay, yeah, we have heard the presentation from all the gentlemen, Dr. Lars, then Pak Sujatmiko, Mr. Jive, and also Pak Jimmy Deng. So now we are moving to the panel discussion sessions. So we have 3 panelists today, ya. Kita ada 3 panelis yang bergabung pada siang hari ini. Pak Jusnan Ruslan, Director of PT Indo Tambang Raya Megah, TBK. Kemudian Bu Patricia Lumanggaul, Market Research Manager of Adara Coal Trade Services International, and Pak Arius Dimara, President Director of Tanjung Alam Jaya. Oke, kita mulai. We give time first to Pak Jusnan Ruslan. Ya, he's been in the ITMG, ya, sangat memahami coal market di Indonesia and pasar ekspor dan domestik. Ya, kita dengar paparan dari Pak Jusnan Ruslan on the near-term coal outlook on coal demand and price trends and current coal demand in Asia market following the COVID-19 pandemic. Ya, Pak Jusnan, mungkin waktunya sekitar 5-7 menit. Nanti kita ada Q&A.
Thank you, Pak Hendra. Good afternoon, everybody. In my residence, we are raining here, heavy rain. Hopefully, my voice can be here. The sound is good.
Yeah, it's clear. We can hear you clearly. So go ahead.
Okay, I think in the early stage, Pak Lars, Pak Jimmy, and Pak G already explored a lot on the demand side, yeah, and the macro supply, and also the energy mix as well. Yeah, I think all is good. Have the same view that why today the market is at the high side because of the supply thin and the demand growth is there due to the economic growth in China, Taiwan, and also the demand growth from Korea and Japan as well recently. Yeah. However, from Indonesia also I think domestic market also similar. In the beginning of the year, most of the power plant have a very low stock. So the demand of the power plant for domestic is now very strong. The stock level until today is still below the safety level, below the 15 days level, and mostly at the 10 days or lower than 10 days. Yeah. At the other side, the demand from the smelter also increasing year on year. And from the Indonesia production point of view, we can see that that in the first 5 months, the production increase only merely increase, I think less than 10 million compared to last year. Last year is the lower production level of Indonesia because of the pandemic and the low price. Yeah, so everybody reduced the capacity, and at the current supply side Indonesia, the stock position also at the very low level. This is also another trigger point. Well, this is also support the price of international for the high CV and also low CV. So not only for the high CV. Indonesia, even some period Indonesia ICI index even prorated is higher than global coal Newcastle price. Yeah, and I also foresee that now because of the supply is very thin, so China demand also are not only on the low CV side, they are now also looking for the high CV side, high CV cargo. That is also another support to the global coal Newcastle high CV index, and they push even higher recently to touch 130 level. Yeah, and what happened at the demand side, the stock level also very low. The China customer side, the stock very low. Taiwan as well, Korea, China as well. Not only this 4 countries, also Philippines also now have a low stock as well. So I think in the short period, the price is get good support from this condition, but as again that Indonesia is planning to increase the 75 million as already approved by government. However, as the approval is in the month of June, yeah, and in the first 5 months the production is only merely higher than last year. So I believe the 75 million is not there. Yeah, probably maybe at the 40 million, maximum 50 million. If 40 million or 50 million, then reduced by the increase of domestic demand compared to the last year, around 10 to 15 million. Yeah, the reason because of the additional demand growth, and also the second is because of the very low stock at the beginning of the year. So the power plant have to restocking at the safety level. Then I think if the production is going well and supported by the weather, then the third quarter price or supply will be better, and the price also will be slightly corrected, and believe next year I will if the production achieve 40 or 50 million achieved from Indonesia, and also maybe second half from Australia also will be recovered, and also from South Africa and Colombia. Then the index will be softening from this current level. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak Yusnan. You just mentioned that your projection on the Indonesian coal productions and the second half is the total realizations probably is lower than the government target. Yeah, so of the 75% additional coal productions, your projections is like lower than 75, so roughly 40 to 50 million. So maybe the total projection for the to 2021 production around 600 maybe, yeah. And but on the other hand, the strong demand in domestic will likely to increase. Last year it was 132, and this year would be 100, close to 150, ya Pak ya. So in total, the export from Indonesia is slightly higher than last year, yeah, hopefully. Okay, we will talk about it on the Q&A sessions, Pak Jusnan. Thank you very much. Okay, Bu Patricia, halo. Bu Patricia Lumbangaul, she's the Market Research Manager of Adar Coal Trade Services International. She's joining us from Singapore. I'd like to hear your perspective, Bu Patricia, on the coal demand outlook in the second half and also the price trends, and what is your projection, Bu Patricia?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mahendra, and thank you for all the speakers. It was all great presentations. From our perspective, if we look at the market, I think we believe that we agree that we should look at the 6,000 R and the sub-bituminous coal separately. And looking at the 6,000 R, I think I'm very positive on the demand, and especially that looking at the growth of economy in the Northeast Asian countries such as Taiwan, South Korea, and Japan. The growth, I mean, especially Taiwan, I would say that the PMI has been incredibly high, and it is quite unprecedented, and we didn't expect that to be that high. So in terms of, I think what we see is that the growth in that Northeast Asian countries has been pretty much supported by the industrial sector and the automobile sector, and we haven't seen that to be slowing down in the near future. So in terms of the 6,000 R prices, we hope that it is still being supported in the foreseeable future. And further, we understand that even the procurement for the Q3 has not done yet by them. So they still need more coal for their spot demand in the Q3. So this will actually support the price of 6,000 R going forward. I don't say that it is going to be 100% higher in the Q3, but at least until their procurement in the Q3 is done, then we don't see any other factor that would actually drive down the prices of the 6,000 R. And especially that the Russia and Indonesia as well, we are all the major exporting countries where actually South Korea would depend on before this happens. But now they cannot have that support because Indonesia and Russia more focus on selling into China because of the arbitrage and also the price advantage. So because of this, and especially right now, the supply response in Indonesia is not as expected, I would say. So, and we don't see that the supply response to be that high going forward because of the limited resources, including the heavy equipments. So, and we don't see that to be resolved anytime soon. So I would say that we are expecting the prices to be supported going forward, and we don't see any big factor to drive down the prices, especially when we understand that the temperature, the expected temperature as well in the Northeast Asian countries as a big importers would be higher than usual. So what we understand from our research is that the temperature in most importing countries in North Asian countries would be about 40% higher than last year. So it should actually provide the support of coal burn in the Q3. And especially if you look at the competition between gas and coal, based on our calculation, now gas, if we look at the JKM spot, which is about $11 per ton for the Q3, and if comparing that to the sub-bituminous coal price and also the 6,000 price, based on our calculation, coal is still in the money as compared to gas. So because of this, I would say that yes, demand would still be strong for coal and price will still be supported. So I'm quite positive in entering the Q3. And in terms of the demand for, the growth of Indonesian production, I think I agree with Pak Jusnan just said that the domestic demand would grow about 10 to 15 million tons. But overall production, I also agree with Pak Jusnan. I think it is quite hard to reach plus 75 million tons, especially we are now entering the second half of the year. And our estimation is that we are going to reach around 50% of the total target of growth set by the government. I think I would stop from there, Pak Hendra. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bu Patricia Lumban Gaol, for your perspective on the coal outlook, the second half, and also projection of the Indonesian coal production. So you basically your projection is the additional 75 million ton would likely not meet the government target, and maybe overall is as 50% of the total target, and is a positive note, positive tone on the outlook on the third quarter. And so underlying ini still strong ya untuk coal the following quarters. Thank you, Bu Patricia. We'll get back to you later on in the Q&A. I believe there are some questions that would like to address you and Pak Yusnan as well. Okay, thank you. The last panelist today is Pak Arius Dimara, President Director of PT Tanjung Alam Jaya. Pak Arius Dimara.
Terima kasih Pak Hendra.
Ya, silakan Pak. Ini PT Tanjung Alam Jaya nih masih subsidiari PT Timah Pak ya?
Betul Pak, kita grup Main ID, jadi cucunya Main ID.
Main ID.
Buat semua panelis dan juga para pemirsa yang lain, saya akan menyampaikan dalam bahasa Indonesia karena saya yakin audiens kita banyak orang Indonesia.
Silakan Pak Arius ya.
Dari sini saya ingin mengambil pelajaran dari apa yang terjadi di 2020, bahwa kebutuhan energi per kapita itu tidak bisa dilawan, tidak bisa ditentang. Untuk negara-negara maju, kebutuhan per kapitanya sudah stabil ya, sudah mencapai established lah dikatakan begitu. Sedangkan negara berkembang, kebutuhan per kapitanya itu masih belum akan terus berkembang, tumbuh terus, mencapai titik menyamakan kebutuhan energi per kapita negara-negara maju. Itu satu sisi ya Pak ya, kebutuhan energi per kapita. Nah, dan ini dan maksudnya kebutuhan ini terus berkembang seiring dengan pertumbuhan penduduk juga. Jadi kalau untuk negara berkembang ada dua double impact. Satu, untuk menaikkan kebutuhan energi per kapita, yang kedua tumbuhnya populasi di negara-negara tersebut. Nah, di sisi lain pemenuhan energi pengganti untuk energi baru terbarukan itu belum mencukupi pertumbuhan itu. Di mana banyak tulisan mengatakan pertumbuhan kebutuhan energi itu dari tahun ke tahun akan tumbuh lebih dari 2,6%. Nah, apa yang terjadi pada saat COVID-19 2020, orang mencoba menyetop kebutuhan energi tersebut. Sehingga di pasar dikatakan kebutuhan energi turun sehingga terjadi keraguan untuk pemenuhan kebutuhan itu sendiri, sehingga harga turun mencapai titik di mana tambang tidak mampu beroperasi pada level ekonomis. Itu terjadi di tahun 2020 sehingga terjadi kekurangan supply. Banyak tulisan mengatakan supply tidak memenuhi 2%. Padahal menurut hitungan saya itu lebih dari 10% tidak memenuhi. Terbukti di akhir tahun terjadi kekurangan supply dan terjadi kenaikan harga. Di awal tahun 2020 pemenuhan supply ini tidak terpenuhi semua. Karena untuk membangkitkan tambang itu tidak secepat, perlu waktu. Ditambah lagi di Indonesia pada awal tahun terjadi bencana banjir, sehingga itu juga memperlambat recovery dari penambangan di sektor batubara. Nah, jadi itu dari sisi tambang, dan dari sisi konsumsi dengan mulai teratasinya ada solusi untuk COVID-19 akan kembali ke normal di mana kebutuhan suplai energi listrik dan industri itu ke titik semula. Nah, ini ternyata laju pertumbuhan yang katanya 2,3 sampai 2,6% kebutuhan energi itu belum bisa terpenuhi. Jadi kami sebagai anak dari Main ID, cucu dari Main ID, grup BUMN mendukung sepenuhnya upaya negara untuk menaikkan produksi batubara di semester 2 tahun 2021 ini. Untuk menjawab di mana supplier juga di sini yang perlu recover, yang paling besar nyetop operasinya adalah Amerika, yang kedua Indonesia hampir 13,1% ya tahun lalu mengurangi supply-nya, produktivitasnya, dan seterusnya sampai totalnya kalau menurut saya sekitar 10% kekurangan supply di tahun lalu. Dan ini perlu direcover, ditambah lagi laju pertumbuhan kebutuhan energi yang 2,3% per tahun itu tidak tercapai. Jadi sangat ini. Nah, tadi saya juga note yang dari China memang tumbuh di sektor electricity dan industri. Itu juga. Dan Southeast Asia itu juga pasti tumbuh dengan bangkitnya kembali industri setelah COVID tertangani. Demikian pendapat kami dari pelaku tambang. Terima kasih Pak Hendra Sinenda.
Oke, terima kasih Pak Arius Dimara, Presiden Director PT Tanjung Alam Jaya untuk perspektifnya di sesi panel diskusi kali ini. Jadi pertumbuhan energi yang 2,3% ini belum bisa terpenuhi sehingga target peningkatan penerimaan negara ini perlu disupport. Nah, nanti mungkin pandangan dari beberapa teman-teman players tadi melihat proyeksinya mungkin di second half agak berbeda mungkin ya. Tapi secara overall memang dibutuhkan tambahan produksi dari pandangan Pak Arius Dimara tadi untuk mengcover demand yang meningkat di 2021 setelah mulai pulihnya perekonomian di beberapa negara termasuk di dalam negeri juga. Oke, baik, terima kasih. Kita we've been listening to all the presentation and the input from panelists in the panel discussions. Kita ke beberapa pertanyaan ya. We have few questions in the column chat now. I'd like to address to the panelists. First is to ke Dr. Lars. Ya, ini we have a couple of questions here that I think is relevant and to be responded. Okay, first is from Pak Antonius Budianto ya. Is $100 coal price sustainable for long term? Is there any chance for demand upside in year following winter period? I'd like to address this to Dr. Lars very quick, and then Pak Yusnan dan Bu Patricia, yeah, about sustainable coal price. 120 also at this moment have a big impact on coal miner due to profit. Okay, please, Dr. Lars, followed by Pak Yusnan and Bu Patricia.
Yeah, I'll be very brief. I mean, I think Patricia might be able to better answer this, but I don't think it's long-term sustainable to have such high prices. I do believe generally we will see higher prices in the future because of shortage of supply. So I have a general sense that prices will be high, but I believe $120 is too high. It will come off. A fair range for 6,000, probably 70, 80 to 90, $100, maybe somewhere there 70 to 90, probably that's enough above cost of production and still allows consumers to produce. So we'll see, but I think it will be strong second half, but long-term, I don't think these prices are sustainable.
Thank you, Dr. Lars. Pak Yusnan, what do you think about this price trend?
Yeah, I have similar perception, yeah, with Lars, that the current 120, 130 level, this is not the healthy one. And we'll, from the supply side, will trigger increase as much as possible the tonnage production, and also will be difficult for the buyer to handle this pricing for the longer term. For the longer price perception, I think it will be the healthy level at the 70 to 90. I agree with Lars. This will be the healthy level from the production side and also from the buyer side.
Okay, Pak Yusnan. Bu Patricia.
Yeah, I think I agree that if we take this as our long-term base projection, that would be too optimistic. But again, after what we had in 2020, there will be some adjustments in the cost as well. So, and going forward, we would see that the forecasted price for long-term wouldn't be as pessimistic as what we saw in the past 2 years, I would say. But so that will be another new normal of new price of new price forecast going forward for long-term. But again, for 120 in the short term, I'm still optimistic for short term.
Okay, thank you, Bu Patricia. Okay, I will take the questions from Pak Tri Prasetyo, our friend Pak Tri. Okay, question addressed to Pak Jimmy Deng, yeah, from CCS. Can you estimate percentage of low-rank coal import from Indonesia for 2021 and forecast 2022?
So for the hello, Mahendra.
Yes.
Yes. So for the low rank coal, I don't know if for the ultra low or for just like the GAR 3000, GAR 34 versus GAR 42, because we both categorize the GAR 42 and GAR 34 as a low rank. But basically for China market, the majority of the coal consumed, especially import from Indonesia is GAR 42, which is around like 6 to 70%. And for China itself, because the President Xi Jinping already gave the target to make the carbon emission at the peak by 2030. So the government has the target to what we would call is double control. One control is on the total emission of the carbon, and another is a total consumption of the coal itself. So for this one, the two control on the emission and also for the total volume of coal level. So this will require, and also at the same time, the Chinese economy is going. So also China needs more energy. So the total, how to say is the total amount of coal should be lowered down, and more energy is required, which means more higher CV is required. So what I'm saying is that the demand for the ultra low CV, especially the GAR 34, will be very limited from China. So far this year, we didn't buy any like ultra low CV, like the GAR 3000, GAR 34. We don't buy anything. Even like GAR 38, we also buy very little. So mostly it's still GAR42 and above.
Okay, so yeah, more on GAR42 ya, China import ya. Indonesia is the how much the percentage of Indonesia portion to?
This one I don't have the exact data, but roughly it's around 65% of the total Indonesian coal to China is GAR42.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you, Pak Jimmy. Pak Arius, kalau Pak Arius dari tambang Alam Jaya itu GAR berapa rata-rata Pak Garius dan Arius, dan persentase ke ekspornya ke mana saja kira-kira Pak Arius?
Baik Pak Hendra, Tanjung Alam Jaya memproduksi batu bara high CV GAR kita 6.200.
Oh, oke.
6.200. Jadi kita biasa buka kontrak 6.300, 6.100. Sementara untuk keluar kita China, Vietnam, Filipina, itu market kita sekitar itu. Kemudian untuk domestik kita gunakan untuk metallurgi coal. Metallurgical coal di peleburan nikel.
Oke, makasih Pak Arius. This is I'll take questions from Pak Ahmad Zuhdi ya. Pak Ahmad Zuhdi, ini pertanyaannya. As we know, a significant increase in global coal price is one of the pulling factor for investors to jump into coal sector. However, as many uncertainty believed to affect coal industry itself, median stock price of companies in coal industry doesn't increase yet, and the data is actually showing negative trends. I like to address this to Dr. Lars and then Jive, to give response on your perspective on these questions.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually an interesting one. So I have a general sense that because of the current global push against coal from all sides, I believe the industry will privatize generally. So you will take, the large companies are getting out of the business, smaller companies stay in the business, potentially listed companies we delist and take it private. So of course, the global general investor sense, go taking things public for coal, that probably won't work that well anymore in the future. So I don't think we should expect too much on the stock prices, even though the returns will now be quite good for the coal companies. So investors may come back, but I think they probably invest privately through shares rather than through public listed companies. Again, that's a global thing I see everywhere in the world, that large companies go out, smaller companies take over and try to do the job. But we all know it will be not as efficient and not as clean as it was before.
Thank you, Dr. Lars. Jive, I believe IVECO also has did the analysis on this. Do you have any inputs?
I'd like to echo what Dr. Lars has said. In fact, I was listening into a commodity panel on Tuesday, an Australian panel, and they said exactly the same thing as Dr. Lars has said, that public companies will move out and the coal industry will be privatized. And that's why we alluded to that in our presentation. The issue is that 29 global fund managers have come out very aggressively against the coal industry. They're asking for public coal companies to lower their carbon footprint, etc. I mean, Dr. Lars has identified the challenges, for the energy concept beyond that. But right now, this is an irreversible trend. And we are IEFA, we engage with both sides. We engage with the decarbonizing consultants, we engage with the fund managers, we engage with the other groups. So we're just here to help with the transition, and hopefully, the world can win. I mean, all sides remain profitable and get what they want. Thank you.
Thank you, Jive. This is a question from Pak Ian Wolf. Thank you, Pak Ian, for attending this event. A question addressed to Pak Yusnan. Has the COVID impacted on skill loss to mines, leading to slower production recovery? Halo, Pak Yusnan.
Halo, ya.
Oh ya, Pak Yusnan ada pertanyaan. Please.
The pandemic starting from last year is definitely impacted to the mining operation, but with the safety management, and then this pandemic can be managed. The production is mostly impacted by the weather rather than the pandemic.
Okay. Okay, Pak Jusnan. Now is from Pak Kristiono from Duta Tambang Raya. The question to Pak Jimmy, but I'd like Bu Patricia to respond it first, yeah. Is it the commodity will become super cycle so that it will support coal price? Bu Patricia, what is your view on this?
I think many commodities have been on the rise in terms of prices right now. Whether it is a super cycle or not, I think we will see that at the end after we will see a bigger picture of this. But of course, the rise in iron ore, steel, all that, that is indirectly also support the prices of coal. And because also, I think that most importantly, we are looking at the downstream demand, which is very strong right now. And that really helps the commodity prices to increase. So, yeah, I guess as long as the we are not at the end of the cycle yet, but I believe that the downstream demand would still be strong going forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bu Patricia. Pak Jimmy Deng.
Hello, Mahendra.
Yes.
As for the super cycle, I'm not an economist. I don't know anything about the super cycle, but I think the price will be supported by mainly two reasons. One is the short of supply. Another reason is that the higher demand. Currently, the price was supported by actually the higher demand. I think this at least until end of this year, this kind of situation will be still carrying on. Yeah.
Thank you, Pak Jimmy. I believe Dr. Lars did some research on this, yeah, Pak. Dr. Lars, what is your view on this commodity super cycle?
No, I didn't do any research, but it's very clear that we are entering, in my view, into a new commodity super cycle, that in all commodities. And that is also driven by the energy transition, right? I mean, the energy transition requires a huge amount of additional resource that wasn't there before. And the energy transition requires a huge amount of energy that wasn't there before. Because, I mean, to build all this capacity, you're going to need energy, right? I mean, to process the materials, to transport the materials and all those things. So I'm strongly to believe that we're entering into a new commodity super cycle on all commodities. And again, coal is separate because of the current discussion on climate change and all those things. But even there, we are entering into a strong phase. So I'm quite bullish and positive on the general mining industry. And I see actually, I was just in South Africa 2 weeks ago and I spoke to various universities there. And the university there, when I spoke, they said, look, Lars, we have one course in South Africa, which is a mining country, that actually still teaches mining. Yeah, and all those things. So I mean, the lack of skilled labor is a huge issue. So Ian is touching on an important subject there, that you see in all the mining countries, that there's not enough people interested in actually getting it, because it seems to be dirty to mine, but it's not green, it's not good. So we are going to run also into a shortage of skilled labor worldwide, and that is an issue to consider, and also in Indonesia. And I think for the government to really start also investing in education to make sure you pull young people into this, because you will, I mean, Indonesia as a resource-rich country will benefit from this, and also will require for their own source, for your own requirement, will require the skilled labor and this clean and mining.
Interesting point, Dr. Lars, and also Pak Ian has raised this issue with skill, labor, yeah. I just got information months ago that in Indonesia there are already more than 50 schools that have the mining faculty, mining department. So it's increased from from 10 years ago. Yeah, 10 years ago it was about 40. Now it's 50. So there is intention is very high now, but I was wondering if the outlook of the coal is a decline and not the brightest as the last decade. So this is something that very serious issue for Indonesia, how to fill in the potential demand of the students from mining schools to fill in the job market. Yeah. So Indonesia demand is still huge from the students, but yeah, the industry demand is questionable. Oke, thank you Dr. Lars. Oke, Pak, ini ada pertanyaan ya. Question from anonymous attendee. I'd like to address this to Pak Jusnan ya. Tadi mengenai PLN, domestic consumption mengenai PLN. Let me see. Ya, ini kalau pakai coal saja PLN still asking for subsidy dalam bentuk DMO. Bagaimana nasibnya jika semua pakai renewable yang harga production cost-nya is much higher than the coal-fired power plant? Pak Jusnan, maybe you have some perspective on this.
Yeah, I think from Indonesia, the power plant project that is already signed the financial agreement and got the contract PPA, that is still continue, yeah, based on my understanding, yeah. And mean that the demand of Indonesia from the coal-fired power plant will increase for another several years. Yeah. And as explained by last earlier, will be difficult that we just compare from one energy coal to the renewable energy, as mostly probably that maybe another 10 years, 5 years, we do not know how is the development of renewable energy will be the speed of the development. But as of now, that the coal still has a big majority. If we can see from the most of the South Asia and also the China right now, and another 5 years or 10 years, the demand still increase. Only the percentage of the energy mix is lower compared to the current level. But so the demand is still there, Pak Hendra, and still growth. Yeah, that is my view. And whether PLN still need the subsidy or not, I think that it will be the area of government, how to structure on the government income and also the spending. Thank you.
Okay, thank you Pak Yusnan. Ya, mention about the demand, domestic demand ya. Tadi kita sudah dengar dari Pak Arius, tambang alam Prestige dari tambang alam Jaya, produksinya di GAR yang 6.100 kebanyakan. Dan ini pengen nanya ke Pak Arius ya, untuk supply ke domestik, tadi Bapak sampaikan ke supply ke domestik. Nah, gimana tuh, ada potensi ke ini nggak Pak Arius, Bapak melihatnya ke apa, prospek pengembangan smelter di Indonesia, khususnya nikel smelter. Bagaimana tambang alam Jaya melihat peluang ini, Pak?
Tanjung Alam Jaya, Pak.
Tanjung Alam Jaya, sorry. maaf.
Pak Hendra, kita melihat dengan banyaknya masuk investasi di sektor nikel di Indonesia ya, mana kebijakan pemerintah juga akan mendorong lahirnya smelter di Indonesia. Nah, itu perlu support batu bara yang kualitasnya kualitas metallurgical coal ya. Nah, ini peluang buat teman-teman di industri ini, tidak hanya PT Tanjung Alam Jaya, tapi juga yang mengelola formasi-formasi sejenis di Kalimantan. Dan ini kemarin kita masih menjual walaupun metallurgical coal, tapi harganya masih harga coal, thermal coal. Nah, ini belum ada added value yang kita tambahkan di sana karena keterbatasan kita hanya sampai produsen dan penjual batu bara saja, belum masuk ke sektor peningkatan kualitasnya untuk bisa siap diterima di peleburan. Jadi masih ada melalui satu tangan lagi baru dikonsumsi oleh pabrik peleburannya. Nah itu yang baru bisa kita isi. Nah ini juga peluang buat teman-teman untuk mengisi. Dan jelas metallurgical coal di Indonesia akan tumbuh drastis di masa yang akan datang. Kemudian menaikkan kualitas batu bara yang menjadi sesuai dengan spek metallurgical coal itu harus dilakukan. Nah, ini banyak sekali peluang sebenarnya yang bisa diraih oleh teman-teman untuk berinvestasi di sektor ini, Pak, seiring dengan kebijakan pemerintah. Demikian pandangan saya, Pak Hendra.
Oke, terima kasih Pak Arius. Pak Jusnan, ada pertanyaan dari Pak Tri Prasetyo nih ya. Let me try to understand the question. Based on your information related to index for Q3 and Q4 will be steady even whether support for supplying number from Indonesia. Do you mean supplying from Australia in similar condition as previous months? And will you expect that buyers will adjust coal quality due to higher index? Oh, nih Pak Jusnan mungkin bisa dijawab. Nanti Bu Patricia bisa menambahkan.
Well, I think what I mean is in the first 6 months, yeah, the ICI some period, the price per energy basis is higher than Aussie high CV coal, the index. Yeah, that is the comparative. But whether the fourth quarter that this condition can maintain, because as I mentioned earlier, that Indonesia will produce more in the second quarter. Yeah, then definitely again, as Pak last presentation earlier, from the supply side will increase, yeah, from Indonesia. But how about the demand side? China, whether India, and India, that is related to the ICI 3 and ICI 4 index, and whether customer can switching the product. The answer is yes, but not much. There is some can say some range that they can tolerance to absorb to changes the quality. As I also mentioned earlier, that the China customer now even try to buying higher CP coal. That is also why it's triggered that the global coal crystal price index also become more stronger position to get the support. And if, for example, if the high CP coal, they burn high CP coal, the design, most of the Taiwanese power plant, Japanese, Korea, Malaysia, they already adjusted to blending with the low CP coal, buying high CP, blending, and they have to burn more coal because of the CP a little bit adjusted. That is, but cannot just if you boiler design 6,000, suddenly you want to burn 5,000. That is not possible. Definitely for the old power plant.
Okay, thank you, Pak Yusnan. Bu Patricia, do you want anything to add on this or?
Yeah, I think another point to add from Pak Jusnan's point is that the availability of coal as well. As far as what we understand, because the question is related to whether the price will be sustainable in Q3, Q4, if I understand correctly, even though that will be a supply response, right? But the thing that what we understand after talking with several producers as well, availability of Indonesian coal will be very limited even until September. So that would actually be the answer why we are very, we are seeing that the prices to be well supported going forward, at least until Q3, because to ramp up the production as well is not going to be that easy as what we used to do in the past. because of the limitation of resources, as I highlighted earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of the switching to the higher CV coal and all that, again, I think that's more a function of the availability of coal. So for example, South Korea, they used to blend lower CV or sub-bituminous Indonesian coal with a higher CV. But the question would be whether they can find availability of Indonesian sub-bituminous at the current market, where most of us are basically sold out until at least September, or at least until August. Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you, Bu Patricia. Okay, we still have 5 minutes before 4 p.m. The last question to Pak Jive. It's about G7 meeting recently. What you comment? Do you comment on the G7 commitment to speed up the the funding to stop the funding of for coal-fired power plant? We've been receiving too many questions from journalists about this. So Jive?
Yep, thank you, Pahendra. I think this is a irreversible trend that among asset managers, among banks, there's a lot of pressure from stakeholder groups to decarbonize, right? And China has set the carbon neutral target, and that's putting a lot of pressure on the G7 and every other country to come up with similar policies, right? On the other side, the social part of it, there's a lot of reskilling and reallocation of capital involved for fossil fuel companies, especially coal companies, right? Now we at IEFA, we believe in talking to all sides, right? We want to work with everybody so that all the aims can be achieved. And also to echo Dr. Lars' earlier comment, that the coal companies should invest back into the environment, right? And also to echo what Patricia has said as well, who Patricia has said, this year, coal price is high because of super cycles and various other reasons. So the real question for Indonesian coal companies is that you're going to get a nice profit for the second and third quarters. It's been very tough for the last two years, maybe 6 years. So you're going to get a lot of cash. The real issue is what you do with the cash, right? Obviously, please pay your workers, pay your loyal shareholders. They all deserve money, they all deserve it. Please keep their jobs, right? But then the issue is what you do. I mean, I just want to quote an example of Shenhua. Jimmy is very familiar with them. In 2015, 6 years ago, they decided that this decarbonization trend is going to continue. So what they did was they paid down all their bank debt, and then they started the wind power section. But I mean, Shenhua still produces 300 million tons of coal. That doesn't change, right? But at least they've been thinking outside the box. And I think right now the opportunities for Indonesia, there's going to be good cash flow coming in the 2 quarters, and hopefully everybody comes out good. Thank you, Mahendra.
Interesting, thank you. And don't forget to set aside more fund for environmental protection, as Dr. Lars. So, Dr. Lars, your closing statement, do you have any view on the G7, strong statement on stop the funding of coal?
Look, I think my view is quite clear in general, but I think we also have to be realistic. And as GP said, right, I mean, this trend will be difficult to change, but I can only honestly, truly from my heart warn Asia to follow this without thinking. I mean, I will just share one more slide with you, and this is the wind map for the world again, a different view. This is Southeast Asia, the blue thing. There is no wind. So Shenhua are investing in wind. Even in China, there's no wind except here, right? In the mountains. So even China investing. You see, you can do all these things to pretend looking nice and green. Don't pretend. Do something really that makes a difference to the environment. Do something really that means clean up your mess, clean up the waste, all those things. That's where you have to invest. I mean, any capacity you invest in wind and solar is going to be a waste. You're going to do it to have somebody look nice. The technology is not ready. It doesn't generate enough power for the installed capacity. And this whole decarbonization trend, that's something that you see right now. There are some laws, but there's actually not yet laws. Even Paris is not a law. Paris is a suggestion, right? And the governments have to think what they want to do. And especially the energy ministries have to really think hard. And I know there's huge financial pressure from institutions, from governments. I will only fund you, even Vietnam, right? I mean, I spoke to Vietnam. I said, guys, we have to invest in green because we don't get funds for coal anymore. But then build an organization, build a funding organization, right, that invests in true proper energy with environmental sustainability in mind. I'm telling you, we're going to run into a crisis, and you'll see it first in Europe. And if Asia doesn't wake up, you're going to waste huge money. And one thing I tell you, who is going to be hurt? It's the poor people, right? I will always be able to afford a high cost of energy. I don't mind, right? I mean, I will have a generator, I will have this, I will have that. But the people who cannot afford it, they are the one who either develop slower, can't get out of poverty, or just simply don't have access to reliable energy. And this is not a joke. This is a very serious subject. And what's currently happening is, in my view, terrible for the environment and for the economies. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dr. Lars. So yeah, very interesting notes, and we're looking forward to have a discussion with you on this issue.
Well, I mean, again, I invite everyone on Tuesday. Yeah. I do a workshop on this discussion of climate change and energy. In principle, the longer one. Anyone wants to join, we will send the link out. It will be online and offline, a combination. Yeah.
So it's going to be next Tuesday from 10
Tuesday from 10 o'clock, 10 to 12. Yes.
Okay, thank you for the information. Okay, Pak Adianto, Bu Desi, mungkin kita we're running out of time. But Pak Jimmy Deng, the last one is Pak Jimmy Deng, ya. Pak Jimmy Deng, hello, you still there, Pak Jimmy Deng?
Yeah, hello. Yeah, Pak Hendra.
Okay, your closing statement. Is China still the prospect of coal import in China in 2021? Is it higher than 2020 or?
So for the outlook of the coal import from China, I think the total number would be definitely lower than last year, because last year there's still around 50 million from Australian coal. This year there will be zero coal from Australia, so definitely the total volume will be lower. This is why this previous year we still have heard from the government there's a target for the total import volume, but this year nobody mentioned about this, because everybody knows the total import volume will be definitely lower than last year. So I think this is a good chance for Indonesia to enjoy more margins in the second half.
Okay, so thank you very much. So enjoying more margin in the second half, and still as Pak Lars said, pay attention more on environmental. Yeah, so we hope the second half the price will stay strong. Yeah, so hopefully. And
but the environment is not CO2. You know, it seems that environment is only CO2 decarbonization. No, the environment is our environment. It's everything.
Right.
That's the water, right? That's the soil. That's the air, right? That's the waste we create. That not enough money goes in there, and that's where you should put money in.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lars. So thank you everybody for the very insightful, informative discussion. I'm really sorry the time is very short. Unable to take all the questions. Mohon maaf teman-teman yang pertanyaannya belum sempat dijawab. Mudah-mudahan apa yang didiskusikan bisa memberikan pencerahan ya buat teman-teman. So thank you very much all the panelists for the presentation and information today. Saya serahkan ke Bu Desi dan Pak Adianto untuk menutup ini.
Thank you, Pak Hendra. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants, we've come to the end of the webinar, Coal Market and Price Outlook in Second Half. I believe we all agree that this has been a very fruitful discussion. Thank you very much to all participants, speakers, panelists, and moderator, Pak Sujatmiko, Dr. Lars, Pak Jimmy Deng, Pak Jipe, Pak Jusnan Ruslan, Bu Patricia, Pak Arius, and Pak Hendra Sinadia, who have made your valuable time to be here today. We appreciate it so much. And once again, on behalf of Coal Asia and Petromindo, we would like to deeply thank to our generous sponsors on this event, PT Tanjung Alam Jaya, PT Geoservices, PT Kideco Jaya Agung, PT Chakra Jawara IVECO, and PT Putra Perkasa Abadi. Thank you very much for your great contribution, support, and trust to our work. We hope to see you all again in our next upcoming webinars. Please visit our website www.petromindo.com for the updated news in energy industry and also information about our next events. Please stay safe and healthy, everyone. Take care. I'm signing off. Bye.
Thank you.
Oke,
Thank you,
terima kasih.
Pak.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pak Yusnan, Pak Jimmy.
Yeah, thank you, Pak. Yeah.
Terima
Thank
kasih.
you, Bapak-bapak.
Pak Rius.
Nice to meet you.